S-ranked support. Black or Red Moon. Chapter 2.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the S-Rank Support Podcast, constantly Calibrating's brand new Fire Emblem show. That's right, we are now on our second episode after Justin and I got sick and tired of devolving all of our shows into Fire Emblem talks. We are now just devoting actual time to it for a newfound love of Fire Emblem: The Three Houses, and just because we even find, even now, after a little while since we finished up the game, that we both still have shit to talk about regarding it. I am your host, Josh Silverman, joined by my A-rank co-host, Justin Stanley.
Charmed, I'm sure.
The goddamn I wish I thought that far ahead.
Can I tell you a secret?
I would love to hear a secret.
It's filled with White Claw.
Oh, joy of joys, wonderful time. That being said, on this episode, we are going to be talking about roughly the first 6 chapters of Fire Emblem: Three Houses. Both Justin and myself played Black Eagles. I would love to say the Edelgard route, but that's not something that comes into play until a later episode we'll be talking about. So, do roughly the first 6 chapters, just talking about some things here and there, talking about characters we loved, characters we hated, and then thoughts on storytelling, and then also it's us, so we're gonna ramble like fucking maniacs.
Yeah, full disclosure, it's been a minute since we both finished it. A lot of things have happened that prevented us from recording this episode, so...
It's really amazing how hard... So the plan... this show was supposed to be already releasing its 3rd episode by now, and we're recording the 2nd episode after PAX West. For those not in the know, the first episode was recorded nearly 3 weeks ago. So yeah, some stuff is going to be a little wonky, but we're gonna figure our way around this mess. So, so the first thing we already covered is who we chose. We talked about that last week. We talked about the people we chose. So, let's talk about. Let's actually juggle it around a little bit. Justin, do you remember when you started the game? Were you certain which house you were gonna go with?
No, not right off the back. I mean, off of first glance, I thought it was going to be Black Eagles. Because definitely, like, Edelgard kind of attracted me into that.
Mm-hmm. It's that white hair anime waifu.
It really is. That's 100% the answer. Close with going with the golden deer?
Deer.
Okay, good. I almost went stag.
It's not that. It's my go-to as well, golden stag. Actually, golden lions is my go-to, but...
You Lannister.
It's easy. It's literally familiarity.
Actually, they're red, I guess. Anyways.
Yeah, but they have golden hair. It's the same thing as how the Black Eagles all wear red. You know what I mean? Like, there's no logic in fantasy.
Yeah, why aren't they the Red Eagles? Why aren't they the Red Eagles?
Because Edelgard's supposed to be a character of darkness is the implication, even though that's never actually touched upon.
Isn't their flag red, too?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
It's fantasy, and...
I'm going to say it's a translation error.
Entirely possible. I'd actually be curious to research that if that's the case. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so let's try that again. So you thought Black Eagles, then you thought Golden Deer for a little bit. So what ultimately made you go Black Eagles?
Yeah, I decided to push through it and see what happens. It was my first gut feeling. I'm like, yeah, the other characters also, like, they seem more likable than the other ones, so I just went with them.
That makes sense. Yeah, so for me, it was kind of the similar thing. I thought Black Eagles, and then everyone on my Twitter list and stuff like that, because I started the game a little bit after everyone else, like maybe like half a day to a day later.
Yeah, Twitter reaffirmed me.
Ultimately, yeah.
But let's be clear. There was more than just one waifu in the Black Eagles, so that's probably why I went that way.
True. Well, for me, I think we talked about it a little bit last episode, but for me, it was like, I thought Black Eagles, and then I saw everyone on my Twitter list was super into Golden Deer, and I'm like, I gotta maybe go that Cloud way, and then I was like, I'm not feeling any of these characters, and then ultimately, I just decided I already had made the decision. I'm like, fuck it, let's just stick this through. It's not like I'm gonna finish this game anyways.
I would say old me would have went Blue Lions.
Yeah.
That's very old me, because I'm always like the night type, like they seem like with their default stats, that's the playstyle I would go for, even though that's totally not the playstyle I went. So yeah, I don't know. Black Eagles made sense to me.
Yeah, I think what I ultimately also just finally just set me up with it was I'd read somewhere, I ended up getting all this mixed up, but I read somewhere that and what I remembered of it, which was wrong, was that Black Eagles were more magic based. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, magic users were always my thing in a previous Fire Emblem game, so may as well stick to that route.
Well, I don't think anybody's wrong about that. They definitely have more magic users off the back, but I mean, like, as we know, like, it doesn't matter what they start at. You can make them anything you want.
Pretty much, yeah. You can do whatever you want. You could juggle people all around in whatever stats and things you want, unless you're trying to min-max and get some superhuman character. It does not really matter. Plus, who needs a superhuman student when you can really just send Byleth in? Because
true. That is the superhuman character.
Yeah, well, Byleth becomes fucking ridiculous as you play on this game. I forgot we were aiming for PG-13 on this show. It's been, again, 3 weeks.
You can bleep him out with something cute.
I did used to on the old Doctor Who show. Anyways, so for me also, again, as I said, I hated the house characters when I first met them in those early cutscenes, which is funny looking back on, because one, Petra, thumbs up, Dorothea, thumbs up. Again, I think the only character I wasn't the biggest fan of in the end was Hubert. Was about the only character that, and I liked him. He just was the lowest on my list. Essentially, it was a case of all these characters are A- to A+, and Hubert's a B- in my book.
Yeah, Hubert's a mixed bag, and I'm still really interested in a Black Eagles playthrough without a Hubert to see how that works.
Yeah, I'm really curious if you can kill him off, or if it's possible.
Somebody fund this. I will make a Patreon, and I will do this, but I need money because I need to live. I need time in a day.
Yeah, eventually we're going to get to more Three Houses playthroughs, but that will take time. I mean, if we want this show to continue going forward past episode 7, we've got to do more.
You're right.
Because I only have planned 7 episodes for this show, and the only reason I haven't started my Blue Lions playthrough is because we needed to record this show, because I didn't want to overwrite information on the game with new information.
Same here.
Though with how far it's been, honestly, I don't think it matters anyways. Okay, so got the characters you love. Were there any characters that you can remember in the first, 10, 15 hours of playthrough that you just straight up hated?
Not from my memory, except Bernie annoyed me a bit, but she grows on you.
Her writing annoyed me. I honestly was like, wow, this kind of feels like very stereotypical shut-in and not well-written shut-in.
Yeah.
And there is definitely a difference, but as she went on, I realized that's kind of not what they were going for. It's just that's the gut instinct. It's kind of how both Ferdinand and Lorenz kind of come across as pompous douchebags in the beginning, and it turns out that at least one of them has a heart. Can't speak to Lorenz. He's kind of a pompous douchebag who's kind of sweet in some of his later support class stuff, but yeah, no, but it's the gut instinct on a lot of these characters sets you up one way, and then you realize, particularly post time skip, that you're way wrong on it.
Yeah, same thing with Ferdy too. I love that he's that old chivalry. I'm this guy, nobility, and it turns out he's done some crap that definitely you could look down on, but in his mindset, he thought he was doing the right thing. He's never been told different.
Yeah, he's a product of his culture.
Yeah.
Is kind of the way I look at his character. He's a product of his culture, and he's also smart enough to want to get beyond what he was taught. Most of the characters go through bits and pieces of that, at least on the Black Eagle side. I think most of them seem to go through that product of their culture, but actually we're going to try to grow beyond it. The only person I think, again, who doesn't really grow beyond what they were taught is Hubert.
He kind of has his mindset through the whole thing. He's determined. He knows his goal.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to be what my father wanted me to be. I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be this dark person. I'm going to watch out for Edelgard. I'm going to protect her. And then it's he does a lot of dark shit and follows the Empire's code for doing dark shit. the only thing he sticks to that's like somewhat a degree of growth is how he watches Edelgard, but in general, he's just a creepy fuck.
He does eventually grow though, and tries to branch out. At least he did in my playthrough.
Yeah, a little bit I agree. There's definitely some of that. So we got
we got to focus on getting through these chapters, man.
No, so we're not gonna hit every single chapter. We're just like that. Mostly the first 6 chapters is just what we're gonna focus on. So, the game starts off with you joining your house, familiarizing yourself with the campus, probably wondering why it is that the game and every guide tells you that fishing is the best way to raise your professor level, but gives you no way to actually find bait. All those assorted things. So you go through, you learn. It's essentially the first 2 chapters are all focused on familiarizing yourself with the school, learning combat, learning all those kind of things, before you hit the 3rd chapter, which is quelling Lord Lenato's rebellion. Which I'm really curious how that particular thing goes when you're in a different class.
Yeah.
Because like Ash, for instance, is the adoptive son of Lenato, and he mentions Lenato so much in all of his support things, regardless of who you're talking to. I didn't bring him into my house, I think, until closer to like chapter 4, 5 or so, because I think I recruited Felix around chapter 5 and recruited him around chapter 5, 6. Might have even been later than that. So I'm really curious about how people who it's actually part of their houses, because like he has the Mutiny in the Mist chapter 3 is specifically related to Ash. Meanwhile, the Tower of the Black Winds chapter 5 is related to Sylvain. So I'm just curious if you are playing as the houses that have those particular characters, how the stories go differently. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of the first 6 chapters is all about familiarizing you with the game. And starting to get a grasp that all's not right at Garrigmach, and all's not right with the Church of Saros. There's something up with Lady Ray, something up with the Archbishop. Wow, that word just came out as gibberish. Something up with the Archbishop that you're not realizing, and it's all about that kind of thing. And also introducing you in chapter 4 to the Death Knight, who I did not even remotely try to fight in chapter 4.
I tried. It did not end well.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought it was just one of those, hey, there's nothing to do. Yeah, we're teasing you with this dark, what the hell is it called? Dark seal on it, but you can't possibly do anything to it. This is only meant to be a challenge on a New Game Plus, was my assumption.
You got to beat him multiple times to get at least 2 dark seals, don't you?
Yeah, I defeated him in chapters 6 and 8 to get my 2 dark seals for Hubert.
I only got a chance to defeat him once. I think something else. I accidentally beat somebody else beforehand and did get to fight him.
Yeah, I went after him for the 2 times. Yes, it was, I think it was 6 and 8 that I went after him. Because 4, I had no confidence. I just tried to get through that level as fast as possible, and the Goddess Rite of Rebirth. But then it was then a 6 where that battle required, you had 2 options. You could kill everyone on the map, or you could kill the Death Knight. So I was like, what I did is I set up, because you're going to rescue Flayn in that one. I went and stationed all of my characters after defeating all but 1 person on the map. I left 1 person on the map who had a very small range, and I just left them off by themselves. And then I sent all of my people to collect all of the items on the map. And then
That's what you usually do.
Yep. And then I stationed them all around the Death Knight. And I was like, and I then put 1 strong person over by 1 space out of the range of the the last minion character. And the plan was, if my guys could not take down the Death Knight, then I would just kill that guy so he couldn't retaliate, right? So I sent it. And I literally had, I think, 10 or 11 characters. I think it was 9 or 10 characters stationed around this guy with 1 off to the side. doing their thing, and I figured, okay, this will take everyone taking on the Death Knight. Yeah, I two-shotted him because by chapter 6 I was so grossly overpowered.
Okay, I wasn't as overpowered in chapter 6. That's when I tried to take him on too, and that's the one I messed up on.
Yeah, I around the time I think it's chapter 3 or 4 is when the game starts letting you do your battle things, and it also, if you're playing on the normal difficulty, you can do one battle thing where it's just, it doesn't cost you any points. And I would edit podcast. I think I already talked about this previously. I would edit podcasts and just do that over and over and over again for, how long's a podcast do we do? About an hour to 2 hours? So an hour to 2 hours is just over and over and over again, banging my head against these enemies. And yeah, so by the time I was at chapter 6, almost my entire team was in their advanced classes. So I was like, yeah, I was ridiculous in this game. Particularly after reading that you couldn't power level characters. I was like, I found a way.
Oh, no, you definitely can.
Oh, again, we talked about this. By the end of the game, that last battle, we'll talk about this when we get there in more detail, but that very last battle of the game, the difficulty spikes upwards so hard, and I'm like, wow, if I hadn't been power leveling, I wonder how this would be, because I'm having difficulty with characters that are 20 levels higher than I'm supposed to be right now.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that in more details when we get there. But yeah, so let's talk some theory stuff then. I mean, obviously we know the answers to this, but just trying to try to dial back on what we were thinking at the time. Mm-hmm. So through chapter 6, we have, again, we have through Flame being captured. At the end of chapter 6, there's also, and again, we're spoiling shit that comes after this point, because we're already further and the game's already been out for now 6 weeks. So hopefully you've been playing, stuff. So Flame has been kidnapped.
Okay.
And we go to rescue her. You defeat the Death Knight, or you at least vanquish the Death Knight in a way that he leaves at the end of chapter 6, at the end of our point in this. Mm-hmm. That's when we get our first appearance. Well, okay, that's when we get our first appearance for the players of the Flame Emperor. We do get a cutscene earlier in the game where we see the Flame Emperor.
Yeah.
At this point, did you have any suspicions who the Flame Emperor was?
I did. Not only did I not have suspicions who it was at the time, I did not work with the Flame Emperor.
Yeah, so, so chapter 6 is not when we get the option to choose to work with the Flame Emperor.
See, it's all mishmash, but no, I didn't at the time.
So that's chapter 8. We'll talk about that, I think, on one of the next episodes. More detail. So it's all mishmash kind of combined. Now, this is the point where pretty much the Flame Emperor just sort of appears and says, bitch, please, I'm the Flame Emperor. More or less is kind of what happens. At this point, you've already had you've seen the House Gautier hero's relic was stolen. We've already done all that. So the Flame Emperor is kind of alluding to some of their plan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, at this point, I had no suspicions because I'd also gotten mixed up on character stuff. So there's a character you see in a cutscene with the Death Knight, with the Flame Emperor, who is actually, I need to see that cutscene again, but I believe is actually Edelgard's uncle, who we don't actually meet in person until much later, and he's, I think, just like a question mark character name. His character model is extremely similar to, the guy who comes to the school in the first act. I think is the father of maybe Annette. I think of Annette. It's the red-haired guy, one of the other teacher characters. Gilbert or Gilbrand, I can't seem to look up and find the name right now. He comes to school. I thought he was the character we see with the Flame Emperor earlier in the game for the longest time, and I kept waiting for him to turn, only to realize that nope, he is. They just had used very similar character models, and I've created a theory that doesn't exist.
Well, granted, we're going to go into spoilers. I'm starting to think maybe they did change. The reason why the Black Eagles are Black Eagles is probably because I don't want to relate them to the Flame Emperor. Maybe that's the reason why the name was changed. Flame Emperor, wears a lot of a certain color.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that could have been just like a reverse red herring kind of thing, just to throw you off so you weren't really thinking about it. It's entirely possible. Also, the whole point at a glance, like everyone's stories end up being a bit different as you play along, from what I understand. But the Black Eagles storyline up at a glance, they are made out to be the evil empire, the evil people. That's not exactly what it turns out to be, but that's the first glance, and their whole entire storyline, even after the glance, is based on murdering the shit out of people.
Yeah,
so
okay.
black being dark, I think, is the point for them.
Gotcha. And I would say that at this point, like, I didn't expect the Flame Emperor to be like a baddie without reason. I expect a Flame Emperor to have their reasons for what they're doing, and it would make sense. And always, the Church of Sarah's already felt like something was really off by them. How Rhea speaks, how they handle situations where it's pretty much our way or highway.
Yep.
So I was suspecting that there might be some just in there, and there might be some, or maybe I've been like working with the bad guys the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely a case of
well, doubling down because I was also with the Empire. So
true. Yeah, no, I definitely think that was a large portion of what we're going with here of the nature of things. Yeah, no, the Church of Saros, that was the thing. Like, I think on paper you're supposed to assume the Empire, Edelgard are the bad guy choice, are the villainous route, but it's like maybe it's just my natural distrust of mainstream religion and organized religion, but
it had me too.
Yeah, maybe it's just like my natural guttural instinct, but like even before Rhea starts saying some kooky shit, I was like, essentially all I could think about was what's that movie with the Nazis from space, where like people always use the GIF all the time. It's the guy going, "Are we the bad guys?" You know,
I forget, but I know what you're talking about.
But like, there's always baddies? Are we the baddies? Like that kind of thing. And that's what I thought of like playing doing anything related to the Church of Saros. It's like, we're definitely not the good guys.
Yeah. And there's the whole Empire thing. Yeah. I couldn't get a clear read on, because Edelgard seems pure, but she seems at this moment like resolute. Like she knows what her goal is, and she will do anything to, like, a lot of Daenerys vibes if we want to get into Game of Thrones. But
yeah, well, I mean, that's what we were talking about. You, I think, said when we were talking about this on the Catch-All once upon a time that you always believed that you wanted to make Edelgard into a wyvern flyer because it just
which
was
she briefly was.
Yeah, but you wanted to make her into that because it nicely mirrored that whole storyline.
It did. At least I thought so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't know what to make of the, because she's pure, but she has some weird. There seems pure in intentions, but also it's kind of resolute on those parts. Are kind of like ugh. And then there's always Hubert. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, Hubert is his own Michigas.
Yeah.
So all right, I think we covered much of the story stuff we wanted to talk about. At least loosely, kind of that direction, and we talked about characters we loved and hated. So we kind of talked about this on the last episode, but let's just like leave off on just some some additional thoughts, because this is kind of like the formatting we're going with. At this point in the game, did you know 6 chapters in that you were as into the game as we are now?
I knew there was something there.
Yeah.
I didn't know quite what it was, but like I was like, this thing has hooked me more than I thought.
Yep.
I don't know if I was locked in yet, though.
Yeah, I don't think I locked in on this game. I think it was around, like, I'm looking at this walkthrough trying to remind myself. I think it was somewhere around chapter 8-ish where I was like truly locked in. To be fair, I was also grinding, so I hit chapter 8 probably like 20, 30 hours after you're supposed to hit it. So I was actually locked in well before I realized it, but it was somewhere around chapter 8 where I was like, where the story actually really hooked me, and I'm like, this game makes sense in my brain. But yeah, so the question we had in here, which we ended up talking about on last episode anyways, was looking through the lens of what made this game's early experience more captivating. Look at the lens of what made this game's early experience more captivating than the most recent Fire Emblem offerings. So I think we've kind of talked about this last time, but For me, it was just the fact that this school vibe made me feel more attached to the characters.
Yeah.
The fact that I was playing on classic mode, so people could actually die, but that I also had the option to not so much bypass that, but I had at least in the beginning a reasonable amount of times that I could redo stuff before before options became set in stone. I felt more part of Byleth than I did than Robin or the other previous protagonists of most recent Fire Emblem games. And then and then just the story was really intriguing to me.
Yeah,
and how they were doing it.
Is this the first Fire Emblem where I know this is like the one of the first with like more spoken dialogue, but the Byleth or the hero character you play as is more of a silent protagonist? Granted, because like you're Byleth talks, but it's you making the choices. I'm wondering, like, did the other ones have set dialogue for their hero characters? Not
that I can remember. I think it was the same thing where you just made your kind of dialogue choices and certain things, and that was I think it was the exact same for the protagonists in the previous games. From what I remember, somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I believe it was exactly the same style. This was the first game of the most recent offer. I think actually in general, but definitely of the most recent offerings, where the characters spoke in more than like grunts and gasps and stuff like that. It was where it is fully voiced. That was a new feature.
Gotcha.
Which I think also, even though I skipped through quite a bit of dialogue, because sometimes I'd be just playing it late at night, and I'm like, I'm just reading this faster. But this is the first one where I actually did really like, where a lot of times I would just listen to the dialogue, and I'm like, I think that pulled me to the story more.
Same here. That's the same thing. Like, I don't know if that's part of the reason right there. Because same thing. Like, that's how I got sucked into Star Wars: The Old Republic as well. Just it being fully voiced. Just I don't know. Like with my attention span, it helps.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm the same way. Like, I like reading dialogue. I'm fine with that. I played a lot of point-and-click adventure games and shit like that most of my life. So, like, and that stylization of things. So, reading it has never been an issue for me. And in general, I read subtitles and skip through audio. But something about having fully voiced stuff, it's that viability of it, that makes me more interested.
Gotcha. Yep. Same here.
That's like the best way I could describe it or think to put it, but...
And it adds a little more character to, well, the characters.
I agree. I think that covers pretty much most we want to talk about on episode 2. Let us know. This is actually still, obviously a very early show. Probably by the time people start listening to this, we'll have a 3-ish episodes done. We currently have a plan set in place for 7 episodes. If people are interested in the show, we will continue going past 7 episodes, and we will start new playthroughs, and we'll be able to talk about stuff more current as we're playing it. But if you have thoughts about the show or things you'd like to see or things you wouldn't, prefer us to not do, please let us know in the comments of wherever you find this, or Twitter and whatnot. You know how to get a hold of us.
Yep.
But thank you all for joining us this week. The S-Rank Support Podcast will be released every week on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you may find podcasts. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/ConstantCalibrating, Twitter at ConCalPod. I'm at Bear Punch. Justin's at Justin_Glorious. Underscore Glorious.
Wow.
That was underscore. I almost said Justin _Glorious. Justin is at Justin_Glorious. Fuck, brain.
I'm working on that.
Yep. Check our Instagram.com/ConstantCalibrating. Come chat with us on Discord at ConstantCalibrating.com/Discord. As always, please leave us a review on iTunes and wherever else you may find this show. The first month of a show like this, particularly the first 88 days or so, is the key time to boost reviews and get it in front of more people. So if you enjoy the show, drop us those 5 stars and let's keep chatting Fire Emblem. And with that, thank you for the perfect tea time. And that's my teacup.
Oh, it's hot.